Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. With one Memorymoog off the table, we move to the next one. So this one actually belongs to William. So William, this is your Memorymoog, and I'm going to bring you guys along on the adventure of this one, just like I did the last Memorymoog of the restoration. So I've just got out of the box late yesterday as I was getting ready to leave, just to kind of get it on my table for today, and we're going to see what we've got here. So at first glance, I can tell you it's been ridden hard and put away wet. I say that because of the wood damage that we have going on. As you can see, that corner there is absolutely gone. That's some deep gouges too. I've never seen them that deep. I have, but it's been a long time. But now the woodwork on this one I don't have to worry about, because actually William is having some, I think you said he's having some walnut wood pieces made for this thing. So we may not have to worry about that. Maybe I'll get them in before I finish this thing up. I can put them on for him. So maybe we'll get those in before we get done. I don't know. If we don't, I'll at least post a picture on my channel when I get a picture of it all complete from him. But like I say, the wood's a little bit rough, but we're not worried about that. Overall, everything else looks pretty decent. I mean, the keyboard, it's all even. The keys aren't damaged. Of course, this uses a Matsushita keyboard, so it's not the best feeling keyboard, but it is what it is. The only big thing I see wrong with this one is it looks like a pot has been replaced somehow. Right here for the for this pot here for the detune of oscillator 2, and it just rotates. It feels like it's broke. Something don't feel right in there at all. But it looks like they just put just a regular pot in there. We'll find out when we open this thing up. But really dirty, really crusty. Needs a good cleaning, of course. But we're missing one wood piece here, so that's why you see this gap right here. It's missing one of these pieces here. But besides that, we'll walk on around here and look at the back here. But like I say, the metal work is in good shape, so it's not bent out or warped. Sometimes I get them in, they've taken a hard hit and it's actually like a car wreck. Everything gets kind of pushed in and it bulges or gets pushed inward or warps the under chassis. I don't see any of that, which is great news. But we're going down here. So serial number 2193 is your serial number, William. And anyways, we'll just kind of, I guess, open it up now before we power it, just make sure everything looks okay, and we'll go from there. I now have this thing all opened up here and just doing an inspection on it, seeing kind of what we got, just check everything, make sure everything's together as well before we apply power. But right off the bat, we can see that we got the auto tune upgrade installed already. It's got the little buffer board, it's got the correct EEPROMs in it for the operating system we need to make this thing run. And so that's all good. I did pull the screws out of the common analog board and digital board. They're hinged at the back so I can lift them up. And I will show you why it's important to always check an instrument, especially if it's got hardware missing, like a piece of wood missing, or if you see stuff like screws that should be there that they're not there anymore, or any of that kind of stuff, or loose screws. As you can see, that one's backed out a little bit. It's always important to make sure that there's no screws laying inside the unit anywhere, especially if you turn it up on its side and you hear something. Even more suspicion to check it out. I'll show you what we caught on this one. So before we applied power, we actually caught something that could have been catastrophic. If we look at the demux board, we'll go down the demux board, which all looks pretty good till you get to right here. And if you look closely, you can see there's a screw laying on the demux. Now, I'm not saying that would have caused a problem, but if it landed just right, it could have caused a problem. Or if I move the unit, or hit the unit. Now this board's loose because I've already taken the screws out of it underneath, but we'll pull that out of there and get rid of that out of the chassis so we don't have any problems. But that could have caused catastrophic failure, also known as foreign object damage, or FOD. So we'll get rid of that. We'll put it in my little screw container over here with the other screws out of this thing, and we just saved possibly a problem there. So that's why it's important to always check things. Don't just assume that it's good, especially if you hear something rattling inside. Even more important to check it. But check that out. The voices, I don't see anything on the voice cards. They all look good. And so I think we're good there. Of course, they're hinged also. And then, of course, this is your voices. This is your, voice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and or A, B, C, D, E, F. If you look at the manual, it references it different. But that's your boards. Contour glide board. I'm going to pull the keyboard out, just make sure it looks okay. There's nothing under the keyboard here. And we'll just continue to investigate. Make sure if we don't have any problems before we power it up. The power supply has been serviced somewhat. We're going to, of course, go back through it. It's not exactly the way I would have done it. But we need to add the bracketry because this thing doesn't have the updated bracketry. But it's got the caps have been replaced, but that's about all I see has been done. Also, the sockets have been removed for the power transistors, so that's good. That's a real common problem with these things too, these earlier units. But we do have the wrong style caps. We got these radio caps, legs are stretched way out, which I don't like. That can fatigue these caps, cause them to start leaking dielectric fluid pretty early. Just not good. These caps aren't made for that. They're made to go to 2 holes right under it, slide in, soldered in. It's not made to stretch the legs way out like that. Like these caps here, these are axials. You can see the legs come out both ends of them. That's what's actually required for these supplies. So we're going to be replacing those regardless. I'll check these, make sure they're okay, and then we'll go from there on the power supply. Also, restore it. We're going to rebuild the power supply anyways. But I will give somebody credit though. The pot that was replaced for the Oscillator 2 detune is actually a precision resistor. It's a precision pot. As you can see, I don't think it's working right. It don't feel like something don't feel right about it. But at some point in time, somebody put a precision potentiometer in there. We'll have to see if it still works, because I'm just kind of curious if that even still works. But anyway, that's just kind of interesting. I've never seen that done. But anyways, I think I'm going to do a little bit more investigating here off camera, and then we'll apply power and see what it does. We're now ready to apply power. I've pulled the keyboard back, inspected to make sure nothing was laying on the Contour glide board there. Everything looks good there. We got a little, something got spilt in this thing, as you can see by the nasty ribbon there, but we'll clean all that up in the process. I went on and unplugged the power supply, did a unloaded voltage test to make sure it is actually working the way it's supposed to work. It looks good. It is working. And I've got my meter set up just to the actual voltage rails. We're going to just apply power, see if this thing works at all. Actually, I'm going to slide the keyboard back up here so I can push keys. Let's apply power, see if it even boots. I don't even know what it'll do. Let's see what it does together here. It did boot. It looks like we got presets based off what I'm seeing there. Let's see if it sounds. This will be questionable. Okay, we got sound. That's good. It doesn't sound bad. It sounds like it works. And of course, it's just powered. Our voltage looks good. That's our plus 15 volts. It's within spec. Let's just go auto tune. Let's see if it auto tunes okay. Sounds like it should, based off what I'm hearing. Hopefully it says 6 tuned. Yep, 6 tuned. So it is tuning up. Let's see if that helped any of the. That doesn't sound bad. I have to be honest with you. It sounds like it's working pretty well. Sometimes you get them in, sometimes they work great, sometimes they don't. This is Now let's see if pot position works. Make sure that part of the software is actually working. If we turn apply, it looks like that's working. I'm real curious. Let's see if this guy here works. If we turn that, oh yeah, it don't work. So now turning it, we have no Notice, well, there it is. Okay, it is working, just at the very bottom of it, I guess. It is working now, though. So 48 would be tune. Let's hit C5, which actually centers these things. So we definitely got, so that one voice may be out a little bit. Let's go to keyboard mode. Let's go to cyclic. Go C4, enter. Yeah, voice 5 is out. It's like it's getting worse. Let's see if that actually does anything though. So if we set a long attack here, I'm sorry, long release time. So I can get it to. It's kind of intermittent. It doesn't work. It's got a lot of play in it, so I think it's just wore out. But I'll see if I got another one of these factory style pots to put back in there. That one works good there. It's oscillator 3. Looks like we are running though. That's good. It's like that oscillator came back in. Let's go C5, enter. So it sounds like it actually, as it warms up, sometimes that'll happen. The oscillators will get kind of out for a minute and then come back in as it goes to the thermal, warm up cycle. It's not uncommon with these things. We'll run auto tune again. Looks like our auto tune LED's out, or it crashed. Okay, didn't crash. 6 tuned. So let's check that again. It sounds like that voice might be a little out of tune, which is fine. Is that still voice 5? Yeah. So the oscillator there may be a little out, but of course we'll be addressing all that in the restoration. So I've just finished going over all the stuff inside this thing as far as the voice modulations, make sure they all work, make sure all the waveforms work, oscillators, etc. And everything's working like it should. But I have noticed that as this thing warms up, we're losing voice, some voice issues. It'll still auto-tune, still says 6 voices, but we have circuitry that's actually going bad, and you can hear we got a voice that's completely just and it'll still auto-tune and pull and say 6 voices, but that will always be flat like that. So we got some circuitry failing for sure. I now have the bottom chassis all cleaned up. As you can see, it looks much better than it did. Had something spill in it at some point. You can see a little bit of oxidation right here on this metal. Wasn't too bad, but cleaned all that up. Got the ribbons cleaned up here where it had the stuff spilt on it as well. The actual contour glide board looks okay though. It don't have anything on it, luckily. But it just like it kind of got spilt behind the keys. It kind of ran down here and ran under the board. And maybe just a little bit got in between the keyboard. So the keyboard may have a little bit of it too. But not bad. Not bad at all. Got it all cleaned up under the demugs, as you guys have seen. Got a broken wire. Found a broken wire right here. So it goes right there. It needs to be resoldered and fixed. Got the fan all cleaned up. Oiled the motor, as you guys have seen. And also got the power supply area cleaned up there with the thermal compensation. And so now we're ready to actually move on to the boards. Also, just to show you how dirty this thing was, there's our nasty water there. It was pretty dirty. So got that all cleaned up, and of course our boards are over here on the table, ready to be serviced. But like I say, I don't see any spills on the actual contour glide board. It looks okay. So I think we're okay as far as anything getting on the board itself. But there's our voices, our COM analog board, and our digital board there. And so we're going to get started there. But anyways, we'll continue on. Alright, I now have all the voices serviced and back in this thing. The COM analog board all serviced and back in. The demugs, of course, all serviced. I can get everything back on top of it here. Contour glide board mostly serviced. There's still a few other things I'm going to do to it, but it's kind of stuck it back in here because it's just such a long board. And so now I've turned my attention. I'm working on the digital board, which is still pulled. As you can see, it's over here on the table. So I've got to do a few modifications to make it run as a plus unit. It's really just a few tracings I have to cut and then add like 3 components. It's not a big deal to make that all work. Once I get that all done, I'm also going to be rerouting all of our harness. Our harness is quite a mess here. This has an earlier harness revision. So I'm going to be cutting the zip ties and rerouting the harness. Basically what happens is all these wires kind of tuck back here behind the chassis. So it allows the boards to be opened up easier. It takes some of the stress off some of the connectors. And it just looks cleaner as well. It makes things a lot easier to work on. But anyways, I'll bring you guys back once I get that. I think what we're going to do once we get the digital board fixed, we're going to put the keyboard back in it and just do a test run just to see how this thing's operating so far. I always like to kind of check the work as I go, and this keeps you from having just a complete, troubleshooting day trying to figure out where all the problems are, if you have any problems. So I think that's what we'll do. So here's something kind of rare you don't see very often. This is actually the Memorymoog Plus update kit from the Moog factory. This is what you would have got. You would have got a little Moog bag. You had all your harnesses and your parts you needed to do the conversion to your digital board, as well as some other stuff. Now, there's a few things I don't have here, but I'm going to be adding. such as I don't have the ribbon shown that goes between this connector and that connector, and I also don't have the overlay badge that you replace on the front panel that goes from Memorymoog to add the little plus badge on the actual emblem on the front. I have a donor one of those. I don't actually have the factory part of that kit, but we've got the panel that goes, of course, like this right here in the front. Of course, this board's upside down. It faces the other way. And then, of course, we've got this overlay here. This is what you would have put over your LFO section to include the start, stop, record, sequence, merge, all the buttons that you needed to add all that. And also I do have the buttons that are numbered that go here to replace the gray buttons, because now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the numbering of these buttons here. So that'll be changed, of course, when we pull the interface board or control board. Then I got the procedure here, so if anybody wants to know the bulletin, it's 838A and 841B is all part of this kit. Now, something I'm going to do that's different, because I have it, is this is just a overlay. You cut the panel, the overlay on the front, and you put this in place of it. Well, what I've got that looks a lot neater than that is actually, some of you may have seen this box sitting around my shop in some of the pictures. This is actually an old Rocky amplifier box, but if you look, Moog Music, these are all new old stock overlays. So I've got everything needed pretty much to redo a Memorymoog. These are the last things out of the factory floor. You can see some of them are still sealed in cellophane down here, unused. I got Polymoog stuff, and of course the Taurus pedals and Synamp overlays and all kind of good stuff here. But I never have really shared this. I thought some of you might enjoy seeing this. But basically, when I have a really sick unit that's really scarred up, I can go to this box and pull overlays and all that. And on that subject, I've actually got the sequencer overlay that's already included with all the other options. So you don't have any kind of gap or have to cut this out. It's going to be a lot cleaner looking with this panel here. So this is the one we're going to actually use where you're dead. But you can see it already has the start, stop, record. The same thing that we saw there on this one. And I'll show you what the standard looks like. So if we go back around to the front of this unit, you can see it doesn't have the start, stop. It's just your basic wave shapes. And of course, like I said, these buttons here are gray. They're not numbered. These become numbered buttons right here. And that's all part of the plus upgrade here as well. But just want to show you that. I thought you might like to see that. I now have the digital board all upgraded and back in. Now we're still running the standard software right now, even though I've already installed a extra static RAM chip for the Plus model. I've done all the revisions, so you can see some of the wires I've had to run. Jumper wires, cut trace, you run wires. Kind of see one tracing I had to cut back there, for example. So I've got this board ready to run Plus model. I've already rerouted the harness. As you can see, it looks a lot less piled up right here. We've now got our harness installed for our power to the expansion board. I've still got to install the harness for the LED clock signal source there. So I've still got to do all that. That'll happen when I modify this harness here. So I've got everything down here modified, and so I got all that cleaned up. But as you can see, I've got the keyboard in it. We're going to do a quick power up. Moment of truth to see if everything still functions like it's supposed to function here. So let's find out just from the point we are right now. So we're going to power it up here. Alright, there's no smoke. It did boot. That's a good sign. Let's go C9 enter, because we don't have any presets. So it's going to put everything kind of in a fixed panel mode. So wherever the knobs are set at here is what you'll get. Let's go C5 enter. That'll center these two frequency pots. Let's go keyboard mode. We want cyclic, so we can cycle through the voices as we hit a key. So that's all working. No glide. Keyboard external keyboard off. Let's go C4 enter. All oscillators are turned down except for oscillator 1. Let's see what we have. Moment of truth here. Voice 1. Okay, so there's all 6 voices of oscillator 1. Check oscillator 2. So you can hear nothing's going to be in tune because we don't have anything calibrated. Here's oscillator 3. So all those are working. Let's go and check our filters, make sure they work. Put the filter in self oscillation. That's about right there. Got oscillators turned down. Actually go track. Like all the filters are working. That's a good sign. So we are alive. That's fantastic. So that's really all I wanted to check from this point. To make sure it's still booted, make sure all the voices were at least still working. Now of course auto-tune, it'll run, but the voices aren't calibrated at all, so it should say 0. Every once in a while I'll get one, I'll put new trim pots in, it'll capture one voice. But it's really rare. It's really rare that happens. We'll just see, yeah, 0 tuned. Okay. And that'll come in, of course, once we do the calibration. But anyways, that's a good start. So now I'm going to continue on working on the power supply because I haven't rebuilt it yet. I've literally just got it kind of stuck in here sideways. You don't want to run it too long like that. So we got that to rebuild, and then we're going to go to the upper boards and of course get the plate back here out and get it ready for the expansion board with MIDI. So that's what's going to happen. Since we know this thing ran with the original standard EEPROMs, I've now put the Plus EEPROMs in it, the 4.1 operating system, and I've actually plugged in our expansion board, just kind of temporarily got it in here. Of course MIDI wouldn't work because I'm missing an optocoupler on this board, a chip that's needed to make the MIDI signals all work. But I want to at least see if it's going to boot with this board it plugged in, because it does actually take part of this board with the extra EEPROM to make all this work. So let's see what it does. Let's test this out. It should still boot. Now, like I say, it's not going to electronically work fully because I don't have everything wired up yet. But let's see if it'll boot here. So I get booted up. So we can go same thing here, C9 enter, and we should be in live panel. It's working. We can turn glide off. So that's good. If we hit CC now, that'll take us to our sequencer, which will be right here. Hit CC again, go back out of it. So that's all working. So it actually is booting now as a Plus unit, which is fantastic. So now, since I know that part of this board's working, I can go in and continue moving on, getting our harness wired in, and of course now I'm going to start on the power supply and upper boards. So I'm at the point now where I'm about to start on these interface boards, but we got to find some parts. And one of the parts we actually need is this pot right here that somebody put in with this precision potentiometer, which is all wore out. And so I went to my stash and I've pulled out one of my donor instruments, which may eventually become something. Right now it's just a donor. But it's this Memorymoog here that I've actually named Smoky. It was in a studio fire and it is absolutely just smoked. As you can see from the boards, how nasty the smoke is. This is what happens when you have a studio fire. The instrument didn't necessarily get burned up, but it just got smoked really heavily. And of course the back of it I believe it got hot from the fire, because there's a lot of melted jacks and things like that. But this was a Plus unit. As you can see, it has the expansion board like what we're installing in the one we've got here. But it has what we need in particular for both the knob. We've got the knob we need here, as well as the potentiometer. So I'm going to be pulling this board here out, desoldering the pot, testing it, making sure it's still good, and then we'll be soldering it into his existing board and finish up the servicing on that board. I'm now working on the interface here. I've got the middle panel removed, as you can see, and getting ready to install the Plus version of this, which is laying right here. So we can see, once again, just that overlay. So I'll be taking the place of this one for the standard. So I'm going to get that in there, but thought you guys might like to see this thing without an interface on it. Alright, this thing's officially converted to a Plus model. I've got the overlay installed. I got the lighter gray buttons installed that are numbered 1 through 6. I got the sequencer buttons here for the LFO wave shape. Also changed to a lighter gray. And also replaced the potentiometer that came out of Smoky. We can turn that, as you can see, and we can change values here on the interface. Real nice and smooth. So that pot was still just fine. No problem there. And if we go here, CC enter, there's our sequencer. So now this is all sequence control. I don't have any data in it, or I'd show you. CC enter, now we're back into the LFO here. The LFO controls as far as the buttons go. But anyways, that's some major progress. The only thing left to do is I've got to rebuild the power supply, because I've still got the old power supply. It was working okay, so I didn't bother it right now. But I'm going to rebuild it, and then we'll be ready for calibration. I've rebuilt the power supply camera, and today I've actually been really focusing on just the calibrations. So I've gone through it, done the full calibration, and got everything working like it's supposed to work here. And as you can hear, we're in preset 2 with the tape data. It's sounding great. You'll see that I only have a few screws holding the boards in. These boards actually be dropped again. I've got them just temporarily in there because I'll be taking these boards back out to pull this wood paneling. We're going to be replacing this wood when it comes in here, and so I'll be taking care of that. But I will show you this real quick. The only other thing I've got to fix is the LED for the LFO. It has quit working. Not sure if it's the LED or if it's just a harness connection. I did have to reroute all this harness for the LFO drive as part of the expansion. But I got to look into that. But if we go CC enter, now we're in sequencer mode. I've loaded the tape data for the sequencer, just demo data. Here, start. As you can hear, it's sounding fantastic. We can go back out of sequencer. Now we're back into the LFO mode here, and all that's working great. I will show you this too right quick. So this preset 2, I always mention this, but if I hit C5 enter, that's going to center oscillator 2 and 3 detune, because this preset uses a little offset. And I'm going to do that and show you the mono mode, how great it is now as well. So here's preset 2 just with the oscillators unison. That's all 3 oscillators per voice. We hit mono mode, so hit mono mode to turn it on. Now we got all 18 oscillators stacked. Anyways, you know how great that thing sounds. But I'm going to put a little runtime on it, make sure everything kind of holds up, and then I'm going to get ready to pull the wood after that, and I'll bring you guys back when I have this thing all complete here. But should turn out really great. But I'm really happy with how it's functioning. Everything's functioning really good, like I say, with the exception of the LFO LED, but that's not a real big deal at all. I can already see the signal from our harness here. This is the harness I added for our expansion. I can see the LFO coming in, plus it's clocked by the LFO, so that's all working. And so it basically just comes up into the board there, and it's something between the board and LED or the LED itself. So I have a feeling it's probably just a connector at that socket, more than likely. But anyways, I'll bring you guys back. So I've added one other modification to this Memorymoog besides the actual Plus upgrade, and that is actually making this thing work with non-powered expression pedals, like the Moog EP1 for example here. This is a request by William to make this thing work like this. So what I've done is I've built a little board here. You can see it right there. I've actually just built a little breadboard. And what it actually has, it has a 5-volt power supply, and it has a comparator circuit. And the reason for the comparator circuit is because I still want to make this thing where you could use regular TS cables, which is just tip and sleeve, or the TRS cable like these require, which is tip ring sleeve. And the problem is, if you just put a 5-volt supply in this thing, if you plugged in a TS cable, it would short the 5-volt rail out to ground and you'd burn up your supply. So what I've done is I built a little comparator circuit that when you plug in, it shorts out to ground. It turns off the voltage rail for that jack. And I've got 2 independent circuits. So you can see I've got both of them hooked up to the meters here. You can see both of them running there. And so right now we've got both of them. We got one pedal engaged, but the way these work is they actually internally connect foot pedal 1 and foot pedal 2 unless you plug 2 foot pedals in. So you get something like this. This is just one pedal controlling both foot pedal 1 and foot pedal 2. So I've got a filter sweep, a pitch on foot pedal 1, and a oscillator 2 pitch on foot pedal 2. So you get something like that. Once again, I can take a cable here that's a TS, so it's just a tip and sleeve. I can plug it into one of our jacks here, and we can see that when I plug this in, it'll turn the comparator off for that that line. As you can see, we've lost our 5 volts here. Our other 5 volts is running just fine. So now we actually have just the one of the foot pedal controls for foot pedal 1. The other foot pedal is looking for a reference on that dummy cable. But we can unplug it and you'll see our voltage come back just fine. So unplug it here and we are back with voltage, as you can see. So that's the benefit of that. Now this throws a lot of people off because some people actually try to plug in like a EP1 or EP2 Moog pedal into their Memorymoog, and it actually does kind of function. But it's not really made to do that, because what it has is it already has a TRS jack in there, but the actual ring part of that jack is actually a logic control for your computer. It actually is a foot pedal enable, and basically it allows the computer to turn on and off the volume part of the foot pedal control. And so what I have to do in order to do this mod is actually hardwired it to ground over here at the computer, remove the line, and now I cut the tracings here and made these independent voltage inputs from that little board I've got. So that's how that works. But yeah, that's actually the reference you get off that jack is a logic control. So it's a 5-volt source, but it's not really made for load. So if you actually watch it with a meter or a scope, as you bring the foot pedal in, that thing falls on its face because it's not made to be a loaded signal. It's actually just a logic on-off, so to speak, for the computer for enabling the volume. So anyways, that's the last mod I did to this thing. It works really good, and I'm really happy with how this is responding. And what's great about it, since they are independent, as you saw, I can use them independently, and you're not going to hurt anything if you still want to use a vintage 1120 pedal with this Memorymoog. You can still use the old 1120 that's actually got a battery in it that supplies the CV voltage. You can still use one of those. You won't have to worry about damaging this little supply or anything. But anyways, just want to show you that real quick. Still got to redo the wood on this one. What I ended up doing was I kept this one together and I took the smoky apart over here, so you can see it's in pieces, and I actually sent the wood off, and William's going to have new wood made, and then when he gets the wood back, I'm going to pull these panels and replace it with his new wood panels. So still got that to do, but besides that, this unit's working fantastic. It's been powered up for the last couple of days, just doing fantastic. So one more upgrade I've done to this Memorymoog is actually I've installed a FTAR keyboard kit. So this is a FTAR keyboard kit from TechSchmex, Lars, so shout out to you at TechSchmex there. This is a kit you can buy, and it's actually a FTAR keyboard that sits right in these things. It's got a nice base plate on it, a real thick base plate. The screw holes line up really well, and the way the actual base plates mate to the actual FTAR keyboard is really nice. There's no stress on any of the little plastic standoffs of the FTAR keyboard. But the FTAR keyboard is a massive upgrade from what the old Matsushita keyboard is. This is the keyboard out of this unit. And I mean, yeah, they work. They're not really a problem as far as how they work. It's really just more of a problem with the feel. These things just have a terrible feel to them. And it's basically the same keyboard you find in like the Prophet 600s, the sequential circuits, the Korg Poly 6, the Poly 61. Of course, the Memorymoog, the Moog Source uses a very similar keyboard design. The Prodigy, the Liberation, they all pretty much went this keyboard in the 80s. And the reason Moog did it was because they had room underneath it, so you didn't have all the craziness of like a actual Pratt Reed keyboard. So the complexity of this thing's very simple. And since there's actually circuit boards they had to fit under it, I can see why they went this route. But it's just a really cheap feeling keyboard. So now we got this keyboard that has a really nice feel to it. It's a modern keyboard, so it's not all wore out, first of all. It just feels really good. You hear there's no clank in the keys, nice and quiet, and just a really nice improvement. So that's been done. I did actually burn this thing in last night, and I had one failure, which we lost the pitch wheel. It was just a bad 3360. We had a Curtis 3360 VCA drop out for the pitch input, the pitch CV input for the bend. I could see the pitch CV signal getting into it. I could see our pitch bend signal getting into it, but the chip had no output, so it's just a 3360 bit the dust there. Partly why I do burn-ins on these things. It lets me really catch any last little issues that may pop up. But anyways, I fixed that. New Curtis chip. That's all working like it needs to work. Kind of hear it there. Actually make this thing sustain for me. I'll show you real quick. So go. So that's our pitch wheel there. So that's all working like it's supposed to work. So really we're down now to just the wood. That's really all we're down to on this one, and of course some detailing. I still got to clean the chassis up. I hadn't detailed it that well yet, but I will be detailing that as well. But everything's working great on it besides that pitch bend. That's the only thing I lost in the burn-in. I now have this thing back together, and I still haven't replaced the wood yet, but I just want to put it back together. I'll make a good sound demo and give you guys a good overview of it. And I'll be replacing this wood once I get those pieces in. But anyways, you can just see how great this thing looks. I have cleaned up all the metal work. Hadn't really focused on the wood since it's been replaced, but cleaned all the aluminum up. The interface panels, of course, they're all nice and clean. Cleaned the knobs. We got the brand new Fitar keyboard in this one, so it looks really good. Plays really good. I've had probably about 24 hours of burn-in on this particular unit, just letting it run while I do other projects on it, such as the foot pedal modifications, and putting a little extra runtime too because it has this Plus expansion board, and just want to make sure it doesn't have any issues because it has, it's about 40 years old, just never installed. So just giving everything a good test all the way around. But this is your cylinder wheel, 2193, and of course it arrived as a standard and now it's a plus. So you've got the MIDI and the sequencer stuff. Clean all the jacks up really good. Just detailed as much as I could here so it looks as great as it sounds. Like I say, with the exception of the wood, that'll be replaced. Just a nice look down it. Something I'm also going to look into is putting a plus symbol in this badge, because I don't have the badge either that came with that kit. So there's some things I don't have, and I just have to kind of find a way to make it work. But I got a graphic shop next to me. I'm going to see if they can fix it up for me with a little plus, just to show it is updated there. So the first thing I'm going to show you right quick before I put the camera on the tripod is I'm going to show you that all the oscillators are working and all the filters are working, as well as auto tune, etc. here. So I've got the preset 1 modified here. I've got everything set to 0 as far as our voice modulation. We'll start with the sawtooth waveforms. I've only got oscillator 1 turned up right now, so that's all you're going to hear is oscillator 1. Oscillator 2 and 3 are down, and the filter is fully open. So we'll start with auto tune here. I'll just show you that auto tune does work. And this chassis is loose, so if you hear a lot of popping and stuff, it's because I still got to replace this wood. It's not exactly real tight yet. They're 6 tuned. And so now what we'll do, we'll go here. I've already centered these, but we'll hit C5, enter. Make sure our frequency detune points for oscillator 2 and 3 are centered. That's what C5 does. It'll say frequency center. Then we'll hit C4, enter. And let me get to voice 1 here. There's voice 1. So there's all oscillator 1 of the sawtooth. We'll go here. Make sure this is set to 50% duty cycle here for our pulse width. So I've got that set. We'll go to square wave now. Here's the square wave of oscillator 1. So there's all those. And then here's our triangular wave. I'm going to go up a frequency here. So there's oscillator 1 of all of our voices. So we'll go here, turn that one down, turn up oscillator 2. Same thing. So there's all of our oscillator 2s. Go to square wave, make sure this is set to 50% duty cycle, so it's kind of a square wave there. Here's our square wave. So there it is. And then we've got the triangular wave. I'll go up a frequency here for that. And there's all of our oscillator 2s. Bring that back down. And then here's oscillator 3. We'll bring that up. Same thing, here's the sawtooth. So there they are. And then here's our square wave. Make sure it's set to 50% duty cycle. And what I'm doing here, I'm actually just turning this knob and look at the display for 50. 50 on this is actually centered, should be a square wave. So here we go. Here's the square wave of oscillator 3. There they are. And then here's our triangular wave, go up an octave. And there they are. So they're all working great. Of course, we can combine those back together. So about the same mixture there. And there's all of our oscillators together. Bring those down now, and I'll get those filters to self-oscillate. Got key tracking on. Bring one oscillator just so I can actually make it have a longer sustain here for me. There we go. Now, once again, the filters are not always perfect because there's not as good thermal compensation on the actual transistor ladder filter as there is the oscillators. There's all of our filters. As you can hear, I'm walking through the filters there. So there's all of our filters working. So I just want to show you that before we actually go into the presets, etc., and just give you a little bit more demo there. But let me get the camera on the tripod and I'll walk you through it. So now since we're on the tripod here, I've actually built just a sound off camera, and I'm going to show you guys how this thing sounds. Just something a little bit different than the typical patches, you know, going through the presets. This is actually preset 48 I've edited, and kind of got a Chemical Brothers kind of sound for those that like Chemical Brothers. I'll just kind of show you this real quick, just something different. So here we go. It is kind of a cool sound there. I'm using the LFO section, the voice modulation section, as well as oscillator sync on oscillator 2. I'm going to put a little reverb on this. Now, since you've heard it kind of raw, because reverb does actually make this thing sound pretty sweet. So now we'll just reset to preset 1 here. So just hit 1 enter. Now we're back in the normal presets. Bring the wheel down. I had the modulation up for that patch I just did. As you can hear, it sounds great. Here's preset 2. Once again, octave shift works. And of course, I'll show you also that the sequencer works. So we'll hit CC enter. You've already heard it just a little bit, but here it is again as a closed up unit. So as you can hear, the sequencer works. CC enter puts you into the sequencer. CC enter again takes you back and puts us back in the LFO section. So these buttons now work the LFO. But that's preset 2. Let's go through a few presets now. But preset, I'll go back to 2. What I like to do with preset 2 is actually center these things. You can center them manually. So you have actually centered them manually, or you can hit C5 enter and that actually centers them in the computer. So you have to sit there and be real precise. Depending how accurate the oscillators are. Make a fast attack here. Now I'll show you mono mode. We'll hit mono mode. Anyway, you can hear it. The mono section sounds great. Mono glide works great. Anyway, yeah, great that thing sounds. This is a very powerful preset here. Preset 3, here's an organ preset. Just want to show you a few of these. 21's my favorite. It's everybody kind of knows this. It's a really nice pads. And that's another one of those, if you add just a touch of reverb, or a little bit of chorus even on it, it really... Beautiful patch. Probably my favorites in this thing as far as presets go. That and the second preset. Of course, you can see for obvious reasons that heavy brass. It's a weird one. This is another favorite patch. This kind of got a shimmering effect using oscillator 3 as an LFO source. Just a really cool patch there. No effects. That's just the Memorymoog. Of course, the polyphonic glide sound there. Really nice patch there as well. I won't go through all these presets, just kind of show you a few here. So I think 61's a good one. Yeah, this is one I like to edit. As I mentioned in a lot of my videos for the Memorymoog, I'll take it and we'll put it in reset mode for the keyboard, so the keys will actually follow one voice as I reset a key. Kind of makes it more like a monophonic synth. You get something like that right there. And actually, a lot of these sounds that you're hearing here, you heard in that little demo song I did during the cleanup of this thing. I used my personal Memorymoog for that. We got the arpeggiator. It's kind of a cool arpeggiator there, and you can of course change your modes. If we go back to that, we can hit that, and we can actually, right now it's up, unlatched, we got down, unlatched, which would sound like this, versus up. And we got up, down, unlatched. And then we got up latched, which means I can off the key and it'll then we got down latched, of course, up down latched, which would be the same thing you heard in 1, 2, 3 of these. Just they're going to be latched one off the key. It'll hold it and it'll keep going. We got auto trigger, which is something like this. So basically, just auto triggers all the notes at the same time that you hold. We got last note unlatched and then last note latched. This is probably my favorite because you can do some pretty cool stuff. Just like that, hold. There we go. We'll have some fun here. And what you're hearing there, I'm actually injecting frequency modulation from oscillator 3 into the filter. So it's just our filters. Oscillator 3. So anyways, just a little something different there as well. 65. That was oscillator sync there. That's also in reset mode, so one voice carries over a key that's reset. And then there's one using oscillator 3 as the LFO source once again, and it's actually still got tracking on the keyboard, so oscillator 3 changes frequency with the keys, kind of like if you use a Memorymoog with oscillator 3 as the LFO source and kept the key track mode switch on. Sounds like that right there. And of course cut that off. Now I'm going to set that constant speed adjusted by once again, we're using the voice modulation section for that. As you can hear, we can actually do that's frequency of oscillator 2. Make this do something. Change the waveform. Kind of a cool sound there. We can also make this work. I'll just show you this right quick in the voice modulation. We can make it controlled by oscillator 3. So we have here. It's going to fall out the envelope and it'll actually inject oscillator 3 with the rate of the attack of the VCF envelope. We can also go here and put that into the filter. Make this there we go. See here, you can get really crazy with this thing. Of course, reverb is just one of my favorite effects for these things. And what's interesting is actually what you're hearing there is almost some of the stuff you can do with the DX7. So just kind of interesting how some of this stuff crosses over a little bit, especially when you get into frequency modulation stuff. But let's kind of go through some patches. So this is another good one. This is a preset 70, which is another good one. It's got the same thing as effective oscillator 3 as LFO. Of course, cool sound preset. It's preset 71, 72. Another brassy kind of sound here for preset 72. And this is another preset using the voice modulation is pulse width control, which I brought this up in the last Memorymoog video as well, I did. But basically we're changing the pulse width of oscillator 2 so we can actually make it have a delayed pulse width will be at 0 and it'll come in, making the oscillator actually have effect of coming in later. So you can signal out the key. We can change all that by doing this. There's very few synths as harmonically just enjoyable as the Memorymoog to me. It's just got this sound that just, it really fills the room. That's another arpeggiator version. Anyways, that's just a few presets. I'm not going to go through all of them. Something else I will show you real quick here. I'm going to show you the polyphonic glide circuits. So we'll go here, and I'm going to go back to preset 1. And we're back in preset 1 here. And I'm going to just set it up for a glide circuit. So let's modify preset 1 here real quick. So I'm not going to use the oscillator 3 as an LFO source. So I'll bring these up here. Actually, I'll just bring up one oscillator so you guys can hear it. Make a fast attack. Open the filter up. Let's go here and let's go to cyclic. And then I'm going to set it up where we got a long glide. Get all the voices down here to a key and then we'll start. Okay, so now I can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we'll start with voice 1. So here's voice 1 all the way up to keyboard. So here we're going to go full amount on our glide. So here's voice 1. So here's voice 1, here's voice 2. Here's voice 3. Here's voice 4. Here's voice 5. And here's voice 6. And then of course I go down the keyboard the same way. Voice 1. Two. Three. That's voice 4. Voice 5. And that's voice 6. Now they're all back down here, this key reference. So that's your polyphonic glide. Of course, we can separate these things out. Something I love to do with these things is actually get all these separated out and then hit mono glide. It does some really cool stuff. So basically, as I've mentioned in my other videos, you have a monophonic glide circuit as well as polyphonic glide circuits. So when you hit monophonic mode, what it's going to do is going to center all those polyphonic glides down, and then the mono glide will take over. So it sounds something like this when you have all those separated out. It's just a fun sound. And now they're all centered. Of course, go back out of mono. And now you can hear our polyphonic glides again. But just want to show you that real quick as well. But once again, I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to restore this thing for you, William. And for you guys that watch my videos, always appreciate it. And wishing you all a Happy New Year. This will be the last video I do for this new year. And I'll see you guys in 2026.